Welcome. If you are an entrepreneur, business owner, and/or a leader, and you struggle with challenging yourself, this video is just for you. We're going to talk about the importance of challenging yourself, what's going to come from it. In addition to that, I'm going to talk about what I'm doing to challenge myself, and so that way you know that you're not alone. In addition to that, this video, this podcast, this live is just for you. Welcome to the Faith Knowledge Podcast. My name is Terrell Humphrey, and welcome to another episode. If this is your first, welcome to your first episode of the Faith Knowledge Podcast. And today we're going to talk about the importance of challenging yourself and why that is important and how to start small. So we're gonna get it started. If you don't have it yet, get your pen and notebook because we're gonna take and go deep with the topic. So first thing first. Come back to the screen. Okay. Now I gotta learn how to fix that. How do I learn how to fix it? My screen is not even visible. Let me see. This gotta be in the front. Of course. Technical difficulty. Let me see. Entire screen. Dang. Show. I don't know how to put it to the front. Anywho, I guess we ain't gonna do the notes today. We just gonna carry on. Nonetheless, challenging yourself is so important because you never know the lessons that you're gonna go into. So when I started my business a half a decade ago, I was trying to learn more about everything that I wanted to do. As I discovered what I wanted to do, the lessons became overwhelming because it's like, well, how do you start? How do you grow? How do you challenge yourself? How do you make revenue? How do you do all these different things? And in addition to that, I literally start to understand, like, well, when you challenge yourself, you're learning something new. When you challenge yourself, you're making yourself uncomfortable. When you challenge yourself, you are learning that you can do it. When I discovered that I can actually have a podcast production business, I'm like, ooh, this is it. This is the thing that I've been looking for. In fact, I didn't know it was called podcast production. I was just like, man, I have a goal. I have a reason. I think I have a plan. Let's just see if I can execute it. As I started to do the work and start to understand, like, man, I'm really growing. It all came from a challenge. When I start to challenge myself, I start to push myself. As I start to push myself, I got more educated. As I got more educated, I started to understand the importance of challenging yourself. Yesterday, I did a podcast around showing up, and this is a continuation around showing up because when you're challenging yourself, you have to learn how to be disciplined. You have to learn how to create a routine. You have to learn how to do it consistently. When I was in the Marine Corps, we had a course called the confidence course. And it's when you go through this course and you go through various different obstacles. You have a tire, you have like ropes to climb, you have all these different things to build your confidence. And when you do this, when I did the first time, I was like, man, my confidence ain't always there. That's the whole premise that's the whole point behind it. Like you're not going to have the confidence until you step there and take the action. When you challenge yourself, you are taking action because you're learning how to do the work. You're not going to know how to do the work until you show up. You see, challenging yourself is so much more than just saying, I'm going to do this or accomplish this goal. It's literally learning, applying, and then readjusting, like adjusting. When I started to challenge myself and challenge my thought process and what I was thinking, how I was thinking, and like, man, can this actually work? Can I actually be good? Can I actually be a good business owner? I started to understand it wasn't the fact that I was challenging myself. It was more so that I was trying something new. I was learning about business. I was learning about sales. I was learning about marketing. I was learning all these different things. In addition to that, I discovered the lessons that came from me just challenging myself. The challenge became understanding what this challenge is teaching me. Everything that I do is new. I have to learn the importance behind it. I have to learn why I'm doing it. I have to learn how to do it more often. And what this did for me is that it built my confidence. When you challenge yourself, you are building your confidence. Confidence doesn't come unless you are challenged, unless you are pushed, unless you are challenge, push, or take that risk. When you discover that you are learning more about yourself, you're learning more about the path that you like to have, you're learning more about your career, everything that you're doing will be a challenge. It's a challenge to take a risk. It's a challenge to believe in yourself. It's a challenge to know that it might not work. But just because it might not work doesn't mean you should not do it. What it does mean is that you should do it with confidence. You should do it with the lack of uncertainty, because the more you learn, the more you become certain. The more you become confident, the more you discover what this challenge is actually teaching you. Every failure is not bad, because that failure is meant to challenge you. And I often thought that I was a failure growing up because I failed so many different times. I failed my ASVAB test so many different times. I failed the written test so many different times. I failed the biology, and I had to retake that. And during the whole time when I was growing up, it was like, well, I'm just learning. It might take me a long time to learn a piece of information than anybody else, but as long as I put the time, effort, and consistency behind it, I can eventually learn how to challenge myself. The challenge is not the fact that I don't know the information. The challenge is more so that I don't understand what I'm doing, how to apply it to my life, and how to understand what is meant to teach me. Every failure has a lesson. When I learned the lesson, I became more confident. As I learned the lesson, I learned more. As I learned the lesson, I started to apply everything that I was doing. You can't learn what you are not doing until you do what you're not sure about. When you are not sure about a particular thing, that means to do it. And there's a terminology called analysis paralysis, and it's when you do a lot of research around what you would like to do. And although research is good, too much research without no action is bad, because now you're relying on the research. You're depending on the research. You are committed to the research. The research is bad. It is good. Yet it can be bad at the same time if that is your only focus. Challenging yourself is literally going out there and applying what you just recently learned. As I'm in school for business management, I learn something, I try to go apply it, because I'm like, how can this apply to my life right now? How can I discover the information that I was taught and go apply it? It's not the fact that I'm applying unknown information. It's like, well, I'm applying information that I just received. How can I apply it to my everyday life? How can I apply it to my podcast production business? How can I just apply it in general? What this is doing for me is that it's helping me understand what I'm doing. Challenging yourself is going to be difficult because you don't understand what you are doing. As I started to understand, like, I don't know everything, but that's okay. You don't need to know everything. What does need to happen is that you have to take action consistently. Hold on. Let me see if I can. I don't know how to fix that, so we just gonna go with the flow. So you have to take action consistently. What's going on, Connor? I appreciate you for joining in. What's going on, TikTok? Everybody else is joining in. I can't see y'all names, but I appreciate y'all for joining in. Nonetheless, when you challenge yourself, there are things that's going to take place. Like, for instance, I went live this morning and I thought everything was set up. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm ready to talk about the importance of challenging yourself on the Failures and Knowledge podcast. When I press live on these different platforms, I press live, and now I don't know how to show the notes. I don't know how to show the screen for the notes. And I'm like, well, rather than me trying to figure this out right now, how about I just do the podcast, communicate, explain, and then after the live, try to figure this out. Everything that you have planned will not go as planned, but when you learn how to pivot, the plan will go as carried. You see, you can't worry about the challenge. The challenge is showing up. I talked about this in a previous podcast episode. When you show up, you don't know what to expect. It's not going to go as planned. Yes, planning is good. Nonetheless, the plan is not going to go as planned, so you have to be willing to adapt. I remember I gave a presentation in Cleveland, Ohio. And in the presentation, like in the beginning of it, I literally had a video that had an introduction of who I am, and it did not play. And I'm waiting for it. Didn't say anything. I didn't panic. I didn't overthink. I just waited. And I waited. And I waited. Now I was like, you know what? As a matter of fact, let me just start. I started, and I communicated, and I talked, and I gave the presentation. When I learned how to pivot, the challenge that I had been doing the last half a decade, I was ready for this moment. I was prepared for this moment. Even though I had the presentation and I had the video that I wanted to play, but the video wasn't playing. Could it have been a technical difficulty? Probably. But what I did discover is that is the lesson to learn. Everything is not going to go as planned. And until you learn how to challenge yourself, you're going to stick to the same plan. You see, adapting is life. Adapting is growth. Adapting is a change. When you challenge yourself, you're changing yourself. You're changing the way you think. You're changing the way you do. You're changing the way you act. Why? Because the challenge is there to help you grow. You can't have confidence if you never step when you are afraid. You see, when I started to play football, I didn't have the confidence that I developed my 12th grade year. My 9th and 12th grade year, I had to develop the skill behind it. I had to learn the information, learn the plays, learn all these different things. Again, I thought I was a failure. It wasn't the fact I was a failure. I was just learning. When you challenge yourself, you are learning. You can't know everything if you're not okay with learning something. I had to be okay with learning the thing, learning the skill, learning the plays, and asking questions when I didn't understand anything. Today, in fact, I ask so many different questions so that way it can just like it registers, like now I get it. And I only get it because I'm asking questions. You see, when you challenge yourself, things are not going to be easy. When you challenge yourself, you have to put yourself out there. When you challenge yourself, there's going to be a lot of uncertainty, but you shouldn't let your doubt stop you from challenging yourself because you can eventually grow to learn what you are doing. My coach used to say, you're a high rep guy. That means it takes me a long time to learn something new. And that's okay as long as I'm learning something new every day. That high rep guy is the one that's consistent. When you challenge yourself, you have to do it every single day. When you challenge yourself, you have to learn something new every single day. When you challenge yourself, you have to relearn what you just learned to apply to your everyday life. Why? Because you are willing to challenge yourself. Everyone that's challenging themselves are the ones that's growing. Everyone that's challenging themselves are the one that's developing. Everyone who challenges themselves are the ones who stand out. Hold on. Are the ones who stand out. Why? Because the challenge make you uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable when the technology doesn't work and I'm thinking it's going to work. It's uncomfortable to say we're just going to go with the flow. It's uncomfortable to say that I had a plan, but the plan didn't go as planned. So now I got to change direction. Now I got to adapt. You see, when you are willing to challenge yourself, you're willing to approach the things that you are unsure about. You see, uncertainty is being unsure of a skill. When you are unsure of a skill, that means you have to do it to learn this skill. As you learn this skill, you are developing your confidence. You see, when I started this podcast production business, I'm like, all right, cool. What business am I in? I thought I was in the social media business. And then when I go present and go out there and start to pitch and pitch my business, people start to ask me questions around the business that I was not doing. So I remember my first presentation and that was like, are you doing, it was around social media agency, social media marketing. And I was like, well, are you managing social media? I said, yeah. They said, are you running advertisements? Are you creating flyers? I said, yes. They said, are you getting people, like, what exactly are you doing? Every question that they asked, I literally said yes to everything. So my mentors in the time, shout out to Action Zone. Action Zone is a nonprofit who help veteran transition service members go from idea to growth in their business. And so when I went through this program, my mentors, they talked to me. That was like, Terrell, you didn't say no to nothing. I said, no. I said, well, I didn't think you needed to say no. This is the thing that I thought I was supposed to be doing. You know, it's like sometimes you have to learn to say no to something. And I'm like, wow, well, that was like, if you say yes to everything, how do you stand out? If you say yes to everything, how do you be remembered? If you say yes to everything, how are you going to have a business? And it blew my mind. It blew my mind because I'm like, man, I'm trying to figure that out. I don't even know. Over time, I started to learn the importance of getting more clear. Podcast production is a clear business because it's around podcasting. And that's when I started to understand. I'm like, oh, I'm getting more clear. You see, when you challenge yourself, you have to be unclear until you gain the clarity that you're looking for. The clarity I was looking for was identifying the business that I was in. The business that I was in is not only around podcast production, it's literally helping established business owners grow their legacy through podcasting. When I start to pitch that and give it out to the world, people start to say, man, that actually makes sense. It actually makes sense. You see, it makes sense because people who understand what I'm doing is simple. But it's not simple in the beginning. It's not simple when I'm trying to communicate. It's not simple because I'm still trying to figure it out. Till this day, I'm figuring it out, yet I learn something new every single day. And I learned previous lessons that I've already learned, and they just start to make sense today. Hold on. And they start to make sense today. Why do they make sense? Because I'm challenging myself to get better. I'm challenging myself to grow. I'm challenging myself to apply the information. I got a lot of books behind me. To be honest, I haven't read all of them. I read some of them. Half of them. Just some of them, okay? And when I read the books had information in there. In 2022, I read 22 books about real estate. During that time, I only closed one transaction within 18 months. So was it the information that was incorrect, or was it my execution? Was it my taking action, or was it my development that did not let me to close more deals? What I discovered during that time, again, I felt like another failure. It wasn't the fact that I wasn't challenging myself. I just didn't challenge myself consistently. I just didn't do it every single day. If I needed to reach out to 10 people every single day, I reach out to maybe 5 people today, 2 people tomorrow, 1 person. Like, it wasn't consistent. If I need to do 10 people, reach out to 10 people every single day, I need to reach out to 10 people every single day. And that's where I was lacking at. I was like, why am I not able to close some deals? Because I wasn't doing it every single day. I was inconsistent with the work that needed to be completed. And so that led me to have less transactions. What does that mean? I felt like a failure because I didn't have the results. I felt like a failure because I wasn't closing anything. I felt like a failure because I didn't make any revenue. I closed one real estate transaction. That transaction taught me everything. If you want to do business, do it every single day. When you do business, do it every single day. When you do business, do it every single day. Because nothing's going to come if you're not taking action consistently. And until I started to take action consistently, I started to see a shift. If I want to help established business owners build their legacy through podcasting, I need to reach out to people who are my ideal customers. You see, when you challenge yourself, you have to do it when you're unsure about the results. As I had a mentorship call yesterday, and like a switch flip, like it literally made sense. Like, oh wait, this is what I was looking for this entire time. Prior to that call yesterday, I've had multiple different calls, conversations, sessions, workshops around the business that I've been doing. So every lesson, every conversation, every skill is an improvement of the direction that I'm leaning towards. It's not the fact that the business is not working. It's more so that I had to get the language right. When I go out and pitch it and people are looking at me like, that don't even make sense. What are you doing? Like, what business are you even in? How I know it didn't work? They didn't ask follow-up questions. How I know it didn't work? Because it didn't even make sense to me. How I know it didn't work? Because I forgot the presentation. When you start to challenge yourself, you start to see what's working in addition to what's not working. When you see that, you're able to pivot accordingly. You're able to pivot, adjust, and change the challenge that you're doing. The challenge that you have to do, the challenge that I started to develop is that I recently have started another 90-day challenge to grow a podcast business, a podcast production business, helping established business owners build their legacy through podcasting. And when I started to do that, in fact, no, it's not even established business owners, it's multifamily syndicators, people who invest in multifamily who want to build their legacy through podcasting. So as I start to like really get clear behind it, I'm like, oh, okay, that's what I've been looking for. Oh man, The overwhelmness. I don't know if that's a word. The fact that it took me so long to get to where I'm at today, the switch flipped. And it flipped because I started to understand what I'm doing. It's not the fact that the podcast production business is not a business. It's more so that I have to do it every single day. I have to do the podcast. I have to reach out to people. I have to have podcasts. I have to ask people, multifamily syndicators who are investing in multifamily, if they want to build their legacy through podcasting. So that way, like, people can literally learn more about everything that they're doing and their legacy lives on. It wasn't until I understood from the half a decade, from 5 years ago, when I started to get into business, started to do podcasting, the growth came from me deciding to commit. The commitment helped me learn, grow, and learn more about business. Business is something that has to be studied every single day. In addition to that, as it's been studied, it has to be applied. It has to be the foundation of what you're doing. If I'm not taking action, hold on. Books are key. Books are definitely key. Connor, I definitely agree. If I'm not taking action, I'm not learning. I can read so many different books. I can watch so many different podcast episodes. I can watch so many interviews. I can watch so many different things. I can have so many different questions. But if I'm not applying the information that I learned, is a waste of time. Why? Because no results come from no action. If I'm not taking action every single day, if I need to reach out to 10 people every single day, I need to reach out to 10 people every single day. And that's what I'm going to start doing. This whole process of Failure's Knowledge Podcast is turning setbacks into success. In order for me to have setbacks, I have to be willing to challenge myself. Challenging myself is the key. It's the growth. It's the secret ingredient, because as I challenge myself, check this out, I'm doing the work. If I need to reach out to 10 people, in fact, if I want to reach out to 20 people a day, the more people I speak with, the more my odds increases. Hold on. And it took me a long time to figure that out, because as I'm communicating this, it takes me a long time to figure it out. But if I really think back, from 5 years ago, when I was figuring out everything, when I was learning about business, when I was learning about skill, when I was learning about podcasting, when I was learning how to edit, when I was learning how to sell, learning how to market, learning how to develop, learning how to be consistent, learning how to create a routine, learning how to create a habit. Like, there's so many different things that I had to learn in the beginning. Yet now that I've learned so much more things that I have in the beginning, it's like, well, yes, I can always learn. In addition to that, now it's about applying everything I've learned, and I have 5 years. Now that I understand that, things are going to change. Okay, hold on. Let me explain a little bit further. By things, I'm saying the results. If I want to have results, I have to go out and search the results consistently. I go to so many different networking events, and I got so many cars right here. I'm like, why I ain't never reached out to these people? Oh, I know, because I was trying to figure out what I was reaching out to them for. Now that that switch has flipped, it's like I literally turned the power off. Hold on. It's like I literally turned the power off. You see, when I turn the power off and I turn the switch back on, the switch has flipped, because now you can see it. Now you can experience it. You see, it's really understanding. When you challenge yourself, you're learning. When you're learning, you're not confident. When you're not confident, you are developing a skill. You see, the skill only come when you challenge yourself. When you challenge yourself, you are learning, you are applying, you are adjusting. Why? Because results only come from people who are taking action. If I need to reach out to X amount of people every single day, I need to do that. And that was my problem. I wasn't reaching out to a lot of people. I was only dependent upon one. Now I can show what I'm doing. I could talk about podcast production. I can demonstrate podcast production. There's so many different things that can come in replacement of not knowing. This 90-day challenge is going to be a breeze. My goal is to do the work and talk about the work that I'm doing. And that's what I've been doing the last couple of days. So we on day number 9, and I'm like, hold on, okay, Let me get back in the groove of doing everything that I need to do so that way the results can start coming in. The results only come in when I do it consistently. The results start coming in when I start to challenge myself consistently. I'm a failure if I don't reach out to 10 people like I need to. I'm a failure if I don't do it tomorrow, Wednesday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'm a failure if I'm not taking action that I need to take. You see, my perspective is changing. The way I think about myself is different. The way I'm growing is different. Challenging yourself is learning how to apply the information that you just learned. When you apply the information, you have to be okay with failure. The only way you fail is if you don't do it. There's a book called Failure is Not an Option. It's by some Navy SEAL, if I'm not mistaken, some military guy. And in the book, he talks about why failure is not an option because you plan ahead. You take the action, you work as a team. In addition to that, if you're not planning ahead, if you're not taking action, if you're not working as a team, that can be considered as a failure. Failure is not an option because when you show up, you're not failing. As you show up, you are learning. When you show up, you are learning more about the business that you are in. Challenging yourself and saying, I'm going to apply this information that I've learned. So that way, as I'm applying the information, the results start to come in. You see, after producing 894 podcast episodes, I'm consistent with the work. In addition to that, it's a system that has been developed from the consistency. Also, I no longer have to guess how to podcast. I can just go out and help multifamily syndicators who invest into multifamily units, help them build their legacy through podcasting. So what if I go directly to this person and I'm communicating with them and I express how we can help them by demonstrating on The Failures Knowledge Podcast? It's a no-brainer because I'm not guessing how to solve your problem. I'm not guessing how to communicate with you. I'm not guessing. I literally have a blueprint. This is the blueprint to help you build your legacy through podcasting. And when I start to understand it, hey man, I appreciate you for coming in. Vague outcry. When I start to challenge myself, things start to happen. It's not that I'm not. Previously, what I was talking about when I was talking about business, I was like, you need to do this. No. I changed it because I was like, nah, I don't like that because I don't want to come off as someone who knows everything. In fact, I'm still figuring it out. But what if I change the perspective of what I'm doing, what's working for me, and talk about that? Instead of me saying I'm a professional, I'm good at this, good at that. What if I just say, this is what I'm trying. This is what I have tried. This is what I'm improving. What if I just focus on that? You see, the challenge is me opening up about the process. The process is what I'm talking about because now it's a form of documentation. When I document my journey, I'm saying what's working for me, what didn't work for me, and what can work for you. As I start to understand that, okay, my biggest challenge was this. In person, I can do that. I didn't recognize online, I needed to do the same exact thing. And one day, I think 2-3 weeks ago, it registered. I'm like, oh, if I do it in person, why not do it online? Why not do it on live? Why not do it on a podcast? And it gave me some type of a sense of relief. Like, man, thank goodness, because I was trying to figure it out. I'm still figuring it out. But I'm no longer talking about it from a person who already done it. I'm talking about from a perspective of a person who's actually doing it. So it gave me like, oh, when you challenge yourself, there's a way of challenging yourself. You have to push yourself, yes. But when you push yourself, you are really, really discovering who you're becoming. You're discovering the business that you have, and you're discovering the problem that you solve. I had a call a couple of weeks ago, and when I was talking to him, I read his bio, and I got surprised because he said he went from X amount to X amount. And I asked him, I was like, well, how did you do that? He was like, man, we focus on one specific problem for one specific customer. I'm like, well, where did you find this customer at? Did you change your price? Did you change your services? Did you change anything? He said, man, no. We focus on one problem for one specific person, and we solve that problem because now we don't have to customize it no more. It blew my mind. Oh man, he said it's so simple. It blew my mind because I'm literally trying to figure out how did you get to that point where it's so simple. When I started to understand that, I said, "Ooh, let me go apply that." So I'm trying to apply it. I'm trying to like change what I was doing because at first it was around helping leaders build their brand through podcasting, but then the type of people that I was attracting, yes, they wanted to build their brand, but they didn't have the money to build their brand. So then I'm like, am I communicating the wrong language? Am I communicating to the wrong audience? Then I had another mentorship call, and it was like, everybody that you come encounter with has a different language. And for some reason, it makes sense. But then when he got to explaining, he was like, when you communicate with this person is thinking about that. They're not thinking about all these other things. They're thinking about one particular thing. And then it made me think about the Marine Corps. Okay, so you have the Marine Corps, Navy, Army, Air Force, what is called Space Force, and then something else. All military, yet the language for each branch is different. And I'm like, what the mess? I know that, but applying it to my business was challenging because I'm like, I'm not trying to solve multiple different branches. I'm trying to solve one branch. I'm trying to solve one problem. I'm trying to solve for one customer. And it gave me a different perspective. The perspective that it gave me was that I need to focus on one. So when I challenge myself, I'm learning how to focus on one problem, one specific person, one solution. So that way, it can be systematized. In business, when you systematize things, you have steps, you have processes, you have steps to follow. And I'm like, man, that's what I was. So he solved one problem for one specific customer, and he made X amount of money. I said, man, I need to do that. I need to focus on one problem for one person, one customer profile, with one solution. If I do that, since I'm doing that with the podcast production business, I will eventually have results that I'm looking for because I'm no longer guessing. I'm no longer all over the place. I'm literally like focused. As you challenge yourself, you will learn how to become focused. The 3 things that I'm focused on are podcast, social media, webinar. The webinar feed the podcast. The webinar feed the podcast feed social media feed the webinar. Webinar, podcast, social media, webinar. Those are the 3 things that I'm focused on. Occasionally, like really rare, I do a couple speaking engagements, but that's not my focus. That's not my focus because if I can grow online, when it's time for me to speak in public, I will have the results to back what I'm already talking about. You know what I mean? So I have a different thought process behind it. And so it's actually helping me because I can focus more. I don't need to be all over the place. I don't need to be everything to everybody. But if I can, since I found this one person I can communicate with, which are multifamily syndicators who invest in multifamily units, who want to build their legacy through podcasting. If I focus on that customer, if I focus on this problem through building podcasting, I can have a podcast production business. And you know how long it took me to get to this point? 5 years, a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort. All these different things came into consideration. Yet when I challenged myself, I learned how to discover the problem that I was solving. So this has been great because challenging yourself is so critical. Never be afraid to challenge yourself because you never know where you're going to grow. And when you grow, it's only because you push yourself, you encourage yourself, you challenge yourself. And when you challenge yourself, you are learning what you are doing. So this has been great. Let me know your biggest takeaway in the comments on why challenging yourself is so important. I love to engage with it. Lastly, never be afraid to fail because that failure will teach you what you need to learn. Hit that follow, hit that subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the following video.